Picture this because it's how it really felt living through it. The first time I saw my daughter Maya lying in that hospital bed, I thought I'd been thrown back onto a battlefield. Only this time there were no uniforms, no medals, no clear enemy lines, just a high school hallway, a polished baseball bat, and a system that thought it could swallow her whole without a sound. Maya had only been at Oak Ridge High for 2 weeks. She was the kind of kid who held her books tight to her chest and looked for a quiet corner at lunch, just trying to blend in. That morning she called me, voice trembling, but steady. "Mom, I think something's going to happen today." I told her to stay close to the teachers. But at Oak Ridge, teachers didn't look too closely at kids who had the wrong skin color, not when a donor's son was involved. They caught her by the lockers. Trevor Whitman, quarterback jacket donor's heir, spun that bat like it was a magic wand. "Pay a toll to pass," he said, smirking at a girl who weighed barely 100 pounds. His friends Mason and Haley turned their phones toward her, streaming it live. Maya tried to edge past. He flicked her books to the floor toe of his shoe, grinding into her notebook. "Who do you think you are?" he hissed. Phones hovered. Ms. Alvarez, the math teacher, stood at the far end of the hall, frozen her hands, squeezing her lesson plan. One swing, just one swing, and everything went black for my daughter. The ambulance doors slammed, and a neon hospital corridor swallowed her whole. By the time I reached the ER, the file already said accidental fall. A nurse whispered to me, eyes darting over her shoulder. They called from downtown, told us to rewrite it. I picked up the chart, fingers trembling. Concussion, shoulder trauma, but all under fall. It felt like someone had snatched my daughter's story right out of her hands and scribbled a lie in its place. That night, I sat in the ICU, my palm over hers, listening to the machine's beep. I'd spent 20 years training soldiers to keep their heads under fire, and here I was drowning in helplessness. But discipline, that was still mine. Discipline is how you destroy chaos. So instead of screaming, I started planning. I went to the principal the next morning, demanded the hallway footage. Cameras were under maintenance, she said, sliding me a cold official report. No evidence of violence. Her vice principal smirked at me like he'd swatted a fly. I walked out. My jaw clenched so hard I thought my teeth would crack. But when the front doors closed, you find another one. I found Ms. Patel, the computer science teacher, and the kids who ran the student media club, Nina, Jay, and Amani. "Get me whatever's left," I told them. They stayed up all night, scraping servers, digging through deleted TikToks, tracing IP addresses. By morning, they had a map. Every takedown request came from the county board's own server, the same office run by Trevor Whitman's father. One night, we pulled a backup video from a hidden equipment room camera. There it was, the team manager sneaking in at 3 a.m., the vice principal holding the door, the bat vanishing into the dark. "They're not hiding a kid's mistake," I whispered. "They're hiding a weapon." We took the story public. The projector in the school auditorium flickered with the restored clip. Trevor's swing, Maya's fall, gasps, screams, phones recording. The principal lunged to pull the cord, but it was too late. Hundreds of uploads, thousands of views. By dinner time, the hashtag Justice for Maya trended statewide. The next days were a blur of court hearings and strategy. My lawyer friend Dana Ortiz filed for a digital search warrant. We dug up the baseball bat under the south bleachers caked with mud, my daughter's dried blood, and a streak of orange paint from locker 117, the exact spot where she hit her head. It wasn't just evidence. It was proof the whole story had been a lie. Then came the interrogation. Trevor sat there in his varsity jacket, arms crossed, smirking. "She came at me first," he muttered. The detective slammed the bat down on the metal table. "Then why's her blood and locker paint on this?" "Silence!" Trevor looked at his lawyer, sweat blooming under his collar. "Coach told me to do it," he blurted. The sponsor would take care of everything. Cameras caught it all. One slip of the tongue and the whole cover-up cracked open. While the police moved, the community moved faster. Local shop owners, a car dealer, even a tiny tech startup stepped up, pledging money to replace the Whitman Foundation's funding. "We'll pay for the sports program," the supermarket owner said on live TV, "if the school suspends the people who covered this up." For the first time, money wasn't a weapon. It was leverage for the truth. At the board meeting that night, the room was electric. Parents shouted, students held up their phones, live streaming every second. "We have the bat," Dana said into the microphone. "We have the emails. We have the video, and we have your vice principal's testimony. The board voted, principal suspended, coach suspended, Trevor listed as a suspect. It was like watching a dam break after years of pressure. But the real miracle happened quietly a week later. Dawn light spilling into the ICU machines humming. Maya's eyelids fluttered. "Mom," she whispered, voice thin but alive. I bent over her, tears I'd been holding back for weeks spilling down. "I'm here, baby," I said. She blinked up at me. I remember Haley. She said, "Go live," right before. Her voice faded, but the meaning didn't. A witness. A final piece of the puzzle. With Maya awake and Haley subpoenaed, the case became ironclad. Charges filed. Sentences handed down. 12 years for Trevor. 8 for the principal. 5 for the coach. But that wasn't the end. Because a sentence is punishment. It's not protection. So we built protection. Parents, teachers, and students drafted a 12-point safety code, the Maya Initiative. Independent cameras. Whistleblower hotlines. Third-party evidence custody. Scholarships for victims. Funding can't buy silence anymore. We cut the ribbon on a brand new transparency center at Oak Ridge High, and my daughter, still with a faint scar on her shoulder, led the ninth graders past the plaque that reads, "The day Maya fell was the day justice stood up." Sometimes I look back at that hallway and wonder if I could have stopped it earlier. Sometimes I remember Ms. Alvarez, who froze that day, but later handed me the emails that proved the cover-up. Courage doesn't always look heroic. Sometimes it's just handing over a piece of paper while your hands shake. And it didn't stop at Oak Ridge. 3 other schools adopted the Maya Initiative. Students stood up in public hearings telling their own stories of being silenced, beaten, or ignored. Watching a kid who had been bullied step up to a microphone and say, "We need..." This was like watching a new country being born. I still get calls from lawyers. The Whitman Foundation is suing for defamation, trying to claw back its reputation. I say, fine, let's go to court. We'll bring the truth there too. Because this was never about one hallway or one donor's son. It was about every kid who's ever been told, "Don't make a big deal out of it," while bleeding in a bathroom stall. So if you're hearing this and you've ever been that kid, or you've been the adult who froze, let this story sit with you. Ask yourself, what would you have done? Would you have stayed quiet, or would you have picked up the phone, found the video, sent the email? That's the thing about systems. They only stay rotten as long as we pretend not to smell them. The day we stop pretending, they fall. Now I want to hear from you. If it was your child, your school, your town, what would you have done? Drop a comment below. Tell me if you've seen something like this in your own life. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And hit subscribe, because these stories aren't just stories, they're blueprints for tearing down walls and building something better.